Hey everyone, Leisa Peterson here. I'm so very happy to be speaking with you. I am participating in a 5-day challenge this week with 550 women from around the world. And I signed up because the idea is that we can all become millionaire goddesses, and I wanted to see what fun challenges they put out for us. And it's been a very fun week. The first day, we were asked to share a live video about what we were no longer willing to tolerate in our lives. And I went to create the video, and just about everything went wrong. I hit the live button, and if you've been on Facebook Live, you get this 3, 2, 1, and it goes live. It showed me that the camera was pointing at my computer rather than me. I got that fixed. I started to talk, and then before you know it, a phone call came in, which made the screen go blank. And then I got that fixed and finished up. And it was really funny because what I was talking about was the fact that I really want to be better at celebrating the wins, the big wins, the small wins, and not sweating the upsets, the setbacks, just being able to be present with them and not having them bother me. So here I was making this video that everything went wrong. So I went ahead and posted it because at least I had created the video. And then yesterday was day 2, and we were focused on writing 10 things that we are feeling like they're our biggest accomplishments in life up to this time. It was super fun. I immediately wrote the list. I put it on the Facebook group, posted it, and got several comments coming back, which were really fun. One of them said, "Hey, we've got a millionaire goddess already in our midst." And I laughed because I thought, well, I haven't really thought of myself that way before. Probably most of us don't. And then I said, what's funny is that I learned, the big thing that having money has taught me is the fact that it's never just about the money. So I posted that, and this woman wrote back to say, okay, I really need you to tell me more about that because I've never made more than $32,000 in my life, and I don't, really understand. So her question really got me thinking about, the origin kind of why I started Wealth Clinic and why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. What I found is that this whole entire journey really got started several years ago when my husband and I received a check for $1.3 million. Now, this was free and clear. It was our money. It was obviously the biggest check I've ever seen, that I would ever, had received in my life. It was mind-blowing, right? We all hope that someday we would receive that kind of money, this windfall. And we also think, my life's never going to be the same. I'm going to be free. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to accomplish all my dreams, right? I mean, that's, I think, what we've been trained to think about getting that kind of money. But we got this check after my husband and I had been flipping homes for several years. And what happened is in a very short amount of time from receiving that check, we realized that nothing had actually really changed within either of us, at least not in the way that we thought the money would affect us. Instead of having this sense that, relief and satisfaction, it turns out that we were still just as worried about money as we'd ever been, except now it was even bigger because we had a lot more to lose than ever before. This was a big eye-opener for me. The money came in, and instead of being happy, we actually became more stressed out about losing the money. And it was so big that we actually started to have all kinds of crazy problems in our life with money. For example, about a year after we received the money, we got a call from our banker that told us that about $350,000 was actually frozen because the investments that we had put the money into were failing, and there was a good chance that at that point, they didn't know what was going to happen, but we might not be able to ever get that money back. Now, it was, terrible timing, of course, because that's how it works. We were building a new house and we needed that money to fund the construction and didn't have any options. So that began a year-long struggle with the bank to get our money back. It turned out that lawsuits were filed and ultimately the bank replaced those funds, but not without a lot of pushing by the investors, because obviously a lot of people, not just us, were looking at losing a great deal of money. Stress was unbelievable. Another thing that happened at the same time all this was going on is my husband, who was building the house, actually ripped one of his rotator cuffs. So that was like many months of recovery. He wasn't able to work on the house. And I kid you not, it was almost a year to the day when he finally got this one shoulder all better. He actually ripped the other one. Both of them were in ski accidents with our kids, that just kind of freak accidents. So the stress of him not being able to work and take care of this house was pretty big. All of this on top of it, I was a mortgage banker at the time, and the industry was blowing up from the inside out, right? This is the financial meltdown time. So all of the money that I was earning was in jeopardy and pretty much falling apart at that point, because that's when the contraction started happening with the housing market and everything slowed down. So then on top of all of this, my mom, who had been sick with ovarian cancer, actually passed away. I would have to tell you that this was the worst time of my whole entire life. And I think that's hard for most people to imagine. But what I learned during that experience is that money doesn't really take care of things in the way that we think it's going to. And in fact, if we're really, really stressed about money, we can bring these things on to ourselves. Like, the stress was so tight that I feel like we were actually creating a lot of this in our lives, not my mom's death, of course. So I look back and I see this tornado that we created based on this stress. And I call this time of life living in scarcity mindset. We had a scarcity mindset even though we had plenty of money. Sometime later, I started my company and began thinking to myself, why am I so stressed about money? Why can't I find peace of mind? Having worked in financial services for many years and helping people with money, I knew that I wasn't the only one who had these challenges about, my mindset with money and lack and scarcity. Knowing all of this drew me into creating classes to help, myself and others dive into our relationship with money to see if we could improve. I knew that I could help people, but I also knew that even when I started teaching the class, that there was still something missing. And the classes were good, but they weren't great. And it's kind of this classic situation where we're drawn to doing the work in the world that we still need to learn ourselves. So I was teaching one class about living a wealthy life, and literally everyone in the class was, feeling kind of disrupted, because when we shine the light on money, I found that we bring up a lot of baggage, we bring up the money blocks, we bring up a lot of stuff that we typically have been putting off to the side. So we were all looking at our money stories and things were coming up, and some of us were having breakdowns because we were realizing that we were ready to live in a freer way. We didn't want to suffer with all this money gunk. And what happened was, as we were working through the class, I had a student send me an email one day. I was just kind of working in my home office. And within 3 or 4 minutes of reading this information that was all about what it meant to live in abundance, as soon as I started reading this information, it was like my whole life flashed before me. And I literally was curled up on the floor sobbing. I couldn't even catch my breath because I was crying so loudly. But it was like all of a sudden I realized in that moment that I had been living in scarcity mindset my whole entire life. And something in this document really triggered this deep set, I think, part that all of us have, which is the fact that scarcity isn't true. It's a conditioned, fabricated way of thinking that is not serving us and causing us a lot of pain, and it erupted from the inside out. I knew that nothing was going to be the same after I pulled myself out of, this sobbing breakdown. It was really leading me into a breakthrough. I began to understand as a result of that experience what I was called to do. I realized that my passion, my true why, is all about breaking free from lack of time, lack of peace of mind with money, lack of feeling not good enough. I was completely done with living life that way. Before, I had learned how to live in scarcity, and now I was learning how to live in abundance. And I gradually started making the shift into the life that I live today. What happened is I moved from creating from a place of fear to creating from a place of love. And I can tell you that it's a very different experience. As I've discovered how to do this for myself, I realized that I could also start to teach this to others. Go out and help people who, no matter how much success and money they have, that if they were still living in this place of fear and scarcity, that I could help them, when they decided that no longer suited them. And I really do mean that there comes a point in time when we just get so fed up with living in scarcity that we have to find solutions. And I want to be the person, I really want to hold that vision for the possibility that we do not need to live in scarcity, and that life is actually all about living in abundance. I'm living it now. I witness it every day. It's incredibly freeing. It does start from the inside and radiate out. It takes time. It's not an overnight process. I mean, I've been on this spiritual journey for a long time, but I do know that it's my life passion. I'll probably be doing it for the rest of my life. And I really appreciate you listening to this, and I'd love to get your comments, your thoughts. Please share them with me via email or on Facebook, where I also post this, and also on the podcast. Namaste.